If you're someone who has a tendency to feel guilty a lot, or if you struggle with keeping your word to yourself and following through with what you say you're going to do, especially as a man, and you're not journaling and writing your thoughts down every single day, then you're really doing yourself a huge disservice. I think I talked about this in a couple of videos before, but I didn't really emphasize how powerful the habit of journaling really is. And so I'm going to break that down today. First, I want to point out that for a long time, I was kind of a scattered journaler, and I just did it whenever I felt like it. And whenever I felt like it would be every couple of months or so, every couple of weeks. And that was primarily because I was ignorant and immature. But when I entered high school, I started maturing more. And then I developed the habit and realized how powerful it is to do it every single day through discipline sometimes. If you're in a situation like me or if you are in a situation that I was in, where you're a scattered journaler, it's probably because you don't know the actual benefits. You don't know how powerful it can be. And some people just think it's like a weird self-improvement thing that you don't have to do or is just unnecessary and doesn't have real impact, but it genuinely does. The main thing that I want to point out is that journaling every day will gradually over time make you a good communicator. And communication is literally the backbone of the human species. It's literally what sets us apart from other species. And it is arguably the primary factor that makes us so advanced, that makes us such an exceptional species. So, not doing everything you can to develop your communication, especially nowadays in 2025, where communication is kind of undervalued, and especially the new generations coming up, it's just more and more undervalued, and less people know how to actually articulate what they're thinking inside their head. And that's a problem. Journaling and really thinking about what you're going to say and then actually taking a pen and putting that on paper. And I'm not talking about an app. I'm talking about physical pen paper journaling. That is so impactful, not only because you articulate everything, but because you literally see what you're thinking. Now that you know that, we could go back to the feeling guilty and keeping your word to yourself. When you write down what you say you're going to do, whether it's for somebody else or for yourself, because we're really talking about keeping your word to yourself. When you write that down, it's so much harder. It's literally so much harder to break that promise. If you really struggle with keeping promises, not only to other people, but to yourself, you need to write it down. Pen and paper. You need to write it down. You need to write down every single goal. You've probably heard it a billion times how impactful that is. For some reason, you still haven't really implemented it. This is probably gonna be your last real forceful sign. You need to pick up a pen and paper and write down your goals. Stick it up on your walls in your room, anywhere. You need to visualize it as much as possible so that the likelihood that you stay true to it is exponentially increased. Many people that are not into self-improvement and just struggle with keeping promises in general may not understand the importance of your word, not only to other people, but to yourself. Now, most people know that when you promise something to another person, if you don't deliver that, then trust and the overall relationship begins to crumble and just go down. And so the more and more you give promises and don't deliver on them, the less trust and the less reliable you become. You have no trust. You don't deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And then I think one of the most impactful things that gets everybody is that when you actually want to be taken seriously, when you actually want to be heard, nobody is willing to hear you anymore. because you can't be trusted. Your word cannot be trusted. So I think that's the importance of word to other people. But this might be a little bit controversial depending on who's watching. But I think your word to yourself is actually more important because at the end of the day, you're the only person that you have until the day that you die. That's 100% guaranteed. You have you, yourself, this body, your soul, your thoughts, your mind, all of it. You have it until the day you die. If you don't even trust yourself, you're going to be in, you're really going to live in mental agony until you stop breathing. And it could literally drive you insane. Your word, right? For people that don't really know, how I think of a word or a promise is it's really just a contract to yourself, right? We're talking about the self. So it's something that you say in the present that is going to be achieved in the future. And if you don't follow through with that for yourself, the guilt is going to add up. And then ultimately you're just going to crash and then you're not going to have any drive to do anything. But when you keep your word to yourself, when you set something and verbalize something in the present to be achieved in the future, and it actually does get achieved for yourself in the future, that sense of pride is unmatched, and it's good pride. It's unmatched. You're never going to feel that from any other source. You can only feel that when you set something for yourself, say you're going to do something for yourself and actually do it. And that is such a strong feeling. And then another thing, it ultimately just helps you improve as a person. Keeping your word to yourself, trusting yourself, being reliable to yourself, it literally will improve your life because it improves yourself. It improves your lifestyle because those goals, those things that you're achieving, it physically transmutes into reality. And not only will other people notice that, but you'll just generally feel more comfortable in your own skin. And, like I said, this is the skin that you're going to be walking in until the day you stop breathing. Why not improve it to the best of your ability? Why not have standards for yourself? If you're associating with people that don't have standards for themselves, they don't have to be high, they don't have to be insane, just some sort of standard, something that they're committed to, that they're disciplined, then that's a huge red flag. So once again, if you're not journaling, if you're not writing down your thoughts, then you're doing a huge disservice, and you're really just going to live in that guilt, that agony for the rest of your life if you don't pick up a pen and put it on paper and start writing down what you're thinking.